All right, everybody, welcome to Infinite Impact Radio, the show for impact influencers by impact influencers with world-changing missions. And I'm excited to have a friend on today, Victoria Whitfield. Good to see you, Victoria. How are you doing?
So good, Evans. I'm excited to be here.
All right. So everybody, make sure you stick around to the end because Victoria has something really cool that she wants to make sure you have access to. And you get my takeaways from the podcast if you stick around the end too. So you get everything nice little summed up and ready to go, and a really cool gift. So stick around for sure. So I'm going to introduce Victoria real quick. Victoria is by title the world's first business Reiki master. It's very interesting. We're going to come back to that. And she has a cutting edge law of attraction coaching business and serves energy conscious entrepreneurs interested in making more money, but ones who struggle with charging and asking for it because of their top 3 limiting beliefs. And I'm interested in hearing in that too. So we got to definitely come back and touch on that. And I don't, before I let her start talking, I also want to tell y'all, she also has a podcast called the Journeypreneur Podcast and a Facebook group, which you should all check out, Entrepreneur Master Manifestors. So let's go on and get going. This is going to be fun. I can already tell. Victoria's always got awesome energy. And even if you're listening, you're going to be able to hear it through the audio, I'm sure. So Victoria, it's great to see you. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm so good. Right now, for those of you, if you can't see me, I'm wearing 13-inch long earrings.
Yes, they are very long.
Yes, indeed. Oh, I love it. And you know what? It's a celebration. You know, it's so important in uncertain times that come up along our journey to be able to find joy, generate joy. That's what brings energy and keeps us on the journey. What do you think, Evans?
Yes, I agree 100%. So I was actually having that discussion earlier with somebody how we were discussing how this is a time of creativity by necessity, which I thought was a cool way of putting it. It wasn't my words, those were hers. But I asked her that specifically, well, how about all the people that are going through fear right now and overwhelm and with the change that they're just not accustomed to? How do they move from that fear to that creativity zone? So I'm going to ask you the same question because I know you probably have an awesome answer. So what would you suggest to the listeners who are going through that, how they can move out of this fear and overwhelm and uncertainty that's happening right now? As for those of you listening, we're recording this during the coronavirus times. So how would you answer that, Victoria?
Oh, man. Get out of the house. Get the dust blown off of you. Let the sun shine, or whatever it's doing, even if it's snowing or raining. Let yourself be out in nature, because as human beings, our birthright is adaptability. You were built to be creative. You were built to have faith. You were built to make massive impact and influence your environment around you. And, you know, the more close and you are to technology and 24/7 media cycles, the more that you're immersed in and isolated, the more you forget at your core what your real birthright is. You know, I can't imagine a single person who's ever gone outside and walked around and admired nature and they're able to stay depressed. Like, there's something about creation. When we get outside and get into it, suddenly the creator within us awakens. So as far as what's the one thing that someone who's listening in right now, what I would tell them, what you need to do right now to get out of fear is go out and be in nature. Breathe in fresh air and remember that life goes on. You know, when if you know, we see an animal passes away, like if you ever came across roadkill in the street, it's awful. And you look at that and you say, oh man, you know, that poor squirrel or deer that you see. But at the same time, for the birds, that need that meat, they will come and pick it up. For the scavenger animals that need that meat, they will come and pick it up. Or For those of you, by the way, if you have roadkill, move it over onto the ground, right under the dirt, because what's going to happen is Mother Earth is going to break down that precious animal's body and recreate new life, because you know what? Life goes on as long as you're connected to that natural flow of creation. If you cut yourself off, right, if that roadkill stays on the concrete, right, that man-made material, it's going to make it harder and harder for that natural process of decomposition and reinvention and rebirth to be able to take place. So maybe you feel like you just got hit by a truck too.
Yes, and a lot are, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. And so with that, the same thing, like if you're having a roadkill moment in your life, the same thing applies. Do not pass go. Do not collect $100, $200. Don't do it. Make sure that you get out in nature and reset. I'm telling you, there is magic in this. Don't underestimate it.
Yeah, I think that's important. And, it's sort of, I live by the coast, and unfortunately, I'm not allowed to go to the beach now, because of some of these things that are happening, but I can still walk outside, and I see it's sort of fun to watch. My office faces a little lake right out here, a little pond, and we got the road there, obviously, but I've watched more people like walking by as I'm doing work than I ever see during the day, not hardly, barely a car, but somebody running by, people walking their dogs, and people are, they're talking and waving to each other. They're staying apart. But it's nice, because it's almost like being isolated. We're actually coming together, which is a very odd thing when you think about it. But before we go any farther, that was a great answer, by the way. I do want to get back to you, and I want to hear I'm just curious if you would share a little bit about your origin story, about how you found yourself in the purpose that you have now, that with what you're doing. Was there something in the past, like a 180 shift, where you went from doing something totally different to this, or just anything you'd like to share? I'm sure we'd love to hear it.
Oh yeah, I got hit by a window. And that is how I ended up. Let me tell
That's
you
a first. That's a first.
Let me tell you, I don't want it to happen second, third, or fourth. All I need is get hit by one window, and I'm done. Transformation. So, yeah. So here's the thing. I like to have a sense of humor. It keeps me sane. So I call this my window of opportunity story.
That's great.
Oh my goodness. So here's what happened. At the time, I was working in the first safe workplace in my life. Up until then, I had worked in the medical field, where I had superiors who would like scream and throw books, and everyone was stressed out, and patients were dying, and people were profiting off of like illness. Blah, blah. I have like a whole thing that I'm not going to get into right now about that field. I was working in medical billing and coding. So I wasn't the doctor that's awesome. I was the person in the back being like, with respect, your dad died on the operating table and you owe us 60 grand. Like I had to be that kind of angel of death person. And in a very negative environment with negative, stressed out people. So past that, our story begins when I'm not there, which I'm so grateful. So you want to talk about corporate refugee? This is after that. I'm working at a nonprofit for interfaith conversations, spiritual development, and social change. Like I can take my shoes off while I'm at work, like really positive, loving people in the space. And it was inside of an Episcopal church campus, this wonderful old Victorian building. You know how collegiate kinds of environments tend to have more older, beautiful antique buildings. So one day in particular, I'm in New Jersey. This was in New Jersey, and we have hot, sticky summers. And it was one of those hot, sticky summer days. And I had an opportunity to turn the air conditioner on. I had an opportunity to do that. that I didn't take. I had an opportunity to call for the maintenance guy to open one of these beautiful, large, Victorian original glass windows that I didn't take that as well. Because I'm like a high achiever and I'm very good working on my own, I'm often was left in that office by my own while other people walk across campus to do things. So the third opportunity that I had was to wait for someone else to come back, maybe about 5 or 7 minutes, um, for them to help me open this big, beautiful, original glass Victorian window. I didn't take any of those opportunities to ask for help. I have this pattern in me that many of my clients, like, they cringe because they recognize themselves in this pattern. Too, I have this pattern in me that I like to think that anything the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Napoleon Hill, right? I have a can-do attitude. I got this. I'm a strong, independent, insert, right? So here's the thing. I had that mindset as I approached the window. And this mindset I call the toxic can-do attitude, because when I went to open the window, I jiggled it a bit because, you know, if you've ever been in an antique building, sometimes like they paint several times and the paint gets a little tacky. You try to jiggle the window to open. And it's two like 30, 40 30 or 40 pound panes of glass, like, because they're big floor ceiling windows. This time the weight broke. Had never broken before, but this time it said bam right on my hands. I was stuck in this window. I don't know if you've ever like broken one of your fingers or had an accident with your fingers, but there are a lot of nerve endings there. And there was so much pain that the blood came out of my throat. I couldn't scream or shout for help. And I was lodged there, like boned glass stuck. So hanging out in that window, I'm trying to breathe and get like, oh my gosh, trying to breathe and get the blood back so I can at least call for help. And it's a big campus. After about 7 minutes, I was trapped there, between 5-7 minutes. Finally, the founder of the nonprofit comes back. He was like at lunch or talking to someone, had no idea. He's an elder, right? So he finds me trapped there and freaks out. You know, we're struggling. He's banging on the windows and shouting and straining. I'm worried he's going to aggravate his hernia as we're trying to get me out of the window. And there came a point where I had to make a decision, I noticed. And this is what happened leading up to that point. As I was stuck in the window, I started thinking to myself, oh my gosh, if I never get out of this window, I'll never get to see my nephew again. He's my person. I love him to death. And so in that moment, I decided I'm coming out of this. I'm coming out of this. Very clear, one of the clearest thoughts I've ever had in my life. And there's this thing, a phenomenon in the brain called a gamma wave, where you can, like, you know, you can lift a car for like 2 seconds. You know, mother is having like extreme amounts of strength.
Right.
It's a gamma wave. I'm convinced that this is what's happened because he was banging. I was not coming out. I pulled my hands out, looked through them, saw the bone, and then passed out, split my glasses on the way down, and I was out cold. Hello, rock bottom. Like rock bottom. This is where my workaholism got me. This is where my toxic can-do attitude got me, is unconscious on the floor, needing to be hospitalized. And this is a safe workplace emotionally to work at. However, because it was nonprofit, didn't really have many benefits and coverage. When I finally came to, I realized this has got to change. Something has got to give, right? Long story short, at the hospital later that day, I saw someone working on my hands in a strange way, like they weren't touching them, but moving their hands above me. And the more they would, the more the pain would come out of my hands. Even like the swelling would come down. That was my first real personal experience of energy work in practice. And then I'm going to fast forward now. I got so passionate about the power of energy work that I went to learn it for myself. And then when I started working more on myself, people started coming to me saying, hey, what are you doing differently? This is so interesting. And I then began sharing it, like volunteering to share energy healing on a regular basis. I I received business coaching at the time because I was interested in bettering myself personally as well as professionally. And my coach challenged me to say, look at all of the people that you're treating, all of your clients. What's the common denominator? And this blew my mind. I had no idea 100% of my best clients, people who were most committed, who got it, who wanted more energy healing and needed it and would really apply it the most, they were all entrepreneurs, 100% of them.
Wow.
And so I did a meditation, asked my spirit guides, like, what do I do with this information? And they said, you will only do energy work on entrepreneurs from now on. That was how I became the world's first business Reiki master. You know, it's one thing to do energy healing for yourself, meditation for yourself, and then also in like a personal context, one where it's just your health and well-being. It's another to do it and put it in the context of business and money manifestation and being able to improve relationships, like all the things that us as entrepreneurs, we are challenged with. So that is my story behind how I became the world's first business Reiki master.
Wow. That's a great story. I mean, it's a painful story, but a great story. I love the whole window of opportunity story. That's great. Well, one thing I'm curious about though, too, is that, you know, a lot of us, we look at the whole can do attitude as being, that's a positive, but in this case, it was not a positive. And as you and I know, with entrepreneurs, it can also be a negative, because we get isolated. We get into this, I'm going to do it all myself kind of thing. So did you find that sort of what you went through, is that the reason that you were led in attracting, you think, these people to serve that were really a lot like you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Evans, you and I both love the band Tool, and their artwork comes from an awesome guy, Alex Gray, especially their latest artwork. And I've met Alex and talked with him at length up in Wappingers Falls at their wonderful compound there. And I remember talking to him about this concept in his art called sacred mirrors, right?
Mm.
Every single person is a sacred mirror for him and his opinion of the divine, and also for that which is in us. Like for the people that come into our lives, they
Mm-hmm.
come for a reason, right? They're magnetized to that which is similar to them, right? That's the law of attraction. By the way, the law of attraction goes against science. Science says opposites attract. Law of attraction says similar things are attracted to one another. So just like delineating between the two, it's a spiritual law where we attract those who are similar to us. We have affinities with those who have similar qualities. And with that, my workaholic, my high achiever, my my eccentric personality, all these are all three special ingredients you can find in entrepreneurs. Somehow me going out there and being myself, right? I'm not gonna pretend to be all guru-ified and all that stuff. Yeah, I meditate, but I'm like, I burp and fart just like the next person, right?
Right.
So well, with that, going out and being myself, I'll attract more people that are similar to the essence of me. You know, is another thing that I discovered over years of receiving personal growth development as well as business coaching. You look back at like, well, what am I made of? Who am I, right? You take all your personal assessments and stuff. I totally overlooked the fact that every single person in my immediate family is an entrepreneur. My father is a serial entrepreneur. Their parents on both sides, my dad and mother, they were either entrepreneurs or founders of like communities and things like that. So it's in my DNA and had been in my community around me for so long. It just kind of comes out of me and my personality. I think that's why that sacred mirrors phenomena attracting
Yeah.
entrepreneurs.
Well, one thing that I found interesting was, you mentioned once you started being yourself. So did you find it was at first, because I know that's what I like to share with a lot of people. It's one of the pillars actually of the infinite impact method is shining to attract an effect.
Mm.
So if you rise into your authentic self, then you shine your message out, you're going to attract the people that need that message and be able to affect them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just curious because I know it's really hard with entrepreneurs. You probably ran into this personally, and with the people you coach, to sort of become yourself, because there's so many mirrors when you're looking at social media, especially, and you're seeing all the other successful entrepreneurs and what they're doing. You feel like you should do something a certain way. So, I guess this is a two-part question. How did you? Was it hard for you, at first to move from into that new world and be yourself and feel safe and secure as an entrepreneur as yourself? And two, how can people do that?
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. This is so juicy, Evans. Oh my gosh, what a question. So here's the thing, like, I'm going to back into your questions by going with the second one, how I did it, and how other people can do it. This is so powerful, hypnosis. And hypnosis is the repeated thought or image over and over and over again. That's all hypnosis is. For me, what hypnotized me into being myself and being curious about being myself or loving myself was being surrounded by that message on repeat for years and years. Now, Evans, you're a wonderful part of this positive hypnosis, of encouraging your
Well,
listeners
thank you.
to like really embrace their impact, and to live authentically, and to think how many people around myself, I'll just put it on me, how many people around myself are saying that message. I had two parents that were all about like, you got the power, or be yourself, love yourself. Being a mixed race individual, I had that challenge from a very early age of like, I don't have one religion or one culture or something that I can like, no one has a pride parade for being mixed race yet, right? but with that, like, I had that message on repeat, so it became a hypnosis. And then on top of that, quite frankly, I grew up in the era of RuPaul having like his talk show, and at the end he had this catchphrase, he still does: if you can't love yourself, how in the hell are you gonna love somebody else? Can I get an amen? Like, another form of hypnosis. So making sure that all of the people and the influencers and the media and the authority figures in your life, the content that you're consuming is about being authentic, loving yourself, becoming curious about getting better and better as yourself, rather than just better and better according to somebody else's arbitrary system. So that, I would have to say, like, for the kind of the second question that you ask of backing into this, what do people need to do? I call it taking an energy audit, right? Audit what you are taking in, because you are what you eat.
Yeah.
You are what you
In
eat.
so many ways, yes.
Yeah. So if all you're taking in right now is we're going to die and it's all going down and there's no money and you got to hustle and be crazy and work all the time, that's what you're going to become. Be kind to yourself. And so to back into the other previous question, like the first question that you ask of like, well, what about me? How did I really start becoming more of myself in my business? I received coaching. Around like, who am I? What do I do? What's my life purpose? And the more that we do purpose work, I believe the more of an inner journey, right? We develop our inner vision, and it's a journey inward, learning what's my life purpose. I have to know who I am on a very deep level and continue to ask that question over and over and over again. I learned that in coaching. I also learned that from different spiritual teachers that I studied with directly. But the more that you have that curiosity of what's my purpose here? And underneath that, the real question is, who am I really? Like, what is this thing that I am? One of the big things that helped me on that path as well was rebelling. So what I am not. This is what I am not. I'm not this jerk. I do not like this kind of music, or I'm not that kind of person. That person's crazy. Like, keeping that really helped to clarify me. Friedrich Nietzsche calls that the lion phase that we go through. The dragon is learning all of the rules and traditions, but the lion stands against the dragon, says, no matter what the dragon says, no, I'm not going to do it. Sometimes that contrast, I know for me, helped me to find more of what my truth was.
That's cool. And you know what it made me think of too, because I've been reading, just read this the other day, that we're so good at telling ourselves what we don't want as opposed to what we do want. So in that practice, which is usually a bad thing, I mean, that's why we usually are putting the wrong energy out there. But in this case, if you can rebel against what you don't want, you can start pushing yourself towards what you do want. So it should be easy for us to do that. We all know I mean, I've got a 9-year-old daughter. She's very good at telling you, I don't want that to eat. I don't want that. I don't want to do this. So there you go. I mean, that should be a great way to start the journey. I like that. So before we keep going too far down this road, I do want to talk a little bit about something I shared in the intro, where we were talking about your, because I find this very interesting, and maybe you can tell me if this is an observation that you see a lot of, but purpose-driven entrepreneurs that feel like they have a purpose, a calling, they want to do good in the world, seem to also, a lot of them have problems with, well, I don't want to charge a lot for that, or I don't want to make somebody pay for that because I feel like it's a gift to me. I want to make it a gift to them. And then as we all know, then they can't continue to fulfill their purpose if they're not charging for it. So that's sort of like a weird thing that happens. So I was curious if you could dive into that a little bit, and maybe the big false beliefs that you run into and how you can help people sort of overcome them. I know we can't do a full-on coaching session now, but maybe just a couple of quick tips.
Oh, totally. So how this is so powerful. Like, and by the way, we already covered the first limiting belief of like having a can-do attitude and hospital. Yeah. With love, have boundaries.
Yeah, you can't do it all on your own. That's something I had to overcome myself. So there we go. I've made it through that one. So that's good.
Yeah. So we're winning already. So good. Yeah. The second one, and this is so everything. It comes up around money. Where, how do I say this? One of my previous mentors, who I love, and he's an extremely powerful healer, but has kind of struggled with money. I remember he would always say something, and this is a lot of entrepreneurs say this, of, it's not about the money. I just want to help people.
Right.
No. It's not about the money. I just want to help people. He's a good man. He's a good man. Right there, good men and good women saying that, of like, it's not about the money. I just want to help people. Right. And I'm going to drill into that just for a second. What's underneath that is this kind of like Mother Teresa complex of like, I'm going to give all my stuff away. I'm going to go into where, like, the middle of the battlefield, the hardest place. And I'm going to give my gifts to people who need it the most and who can't afford it. And I'm going to show up because that's my purpose. And that's how I'm even serving God or serving humanity, right? Or serving myself in my own image of like who I should be as a human being. And it's awesome. And you don't know Mother Teresa. Mother Teresa, the truth of the matter is, Mother Teresa, if she ever decided to withdraw from her account at the Vatican Bank, would have been the first person in history to bankrupt the Vatican. You want to talk about money? She had access to a private jet whenever she wanted to go and see the Pope and do her confession and talk about how much she unfortunately hated herself, which is a whole nother can of worms. You watch the Mother Teresa documentary to demystify this. But she had money. The only reason why we know her name is because there was money involved. There's tons and tons of marketing around the incredible healing work that she was doing, you know, like tending to the crippled and blessing and running like the children's orphanage and all the stuff that she did. So if you really are thinking about like being a good person, be like Mother Teresa. Really, yes, be like Mother Teresa. Let people, let all the attention go to the awesome work that you're doing, and let money go somewhere, right? If it ain't going into your pocket, it's gonna go somewhere, right?
Right.
It's just energy. But I'm going to drill even underneath that a little bit to the root of this like there's a sales shame or sales guilt that we have around charging high end. Like I make around $10,000-$12,000 per client, by the way. Like there's this belief that money is not spiritual, right? It's the root of all evil. People who have like a crap ton of money are jerks, or they do crusty, crappy stuff. And you know what? Money is not necessarily the root of all evil. The actual scripture says the love of money is the root of all evil, right? Money's just a tool, right?
Mm-hmm.
An axe is something that if you put it in the hands of a fireman, he can break into a burning building and save a family, right? Whereas if you put an axe in the hands of someone who is incredibly angry, emotionally disturbed, and wants to do harm, they can break into a building and instead of rescue the family, they could kill them, right? The money is the axe, right? It's a tool. And being kind to yourself, doing the inner work to resolve this spiritual imbalance around receiving more financial support. I wish I could go deeper. Like that's only the tip of the iceberg. I want to like at least topple this concept of like, oh, you know, I just want to help. It's not about the money. I just want to help people. Listen, if you don't make it about the money, you won't really be able to help people. Maybe you'll be able to help like as many people as you can like count on your hands, or as many people as you could possibly like fit into your schedule in 1 week, by giving away all of your energy. And you're either going to burn out, right? Or you're going to get really angry as you give away more of your energy without receiving compensation for it. So I better leave that alone, because if I go any further, like this is
No, that makes, I think that's a good point though, because it's just energy and it's the tool of who has it, you know. I mean, do you want to give the axe to, I don't know why I had this vision in my head when you were telling that story, but Jack Nicholson in The Shining, or do you want to give it to, you know, the fireman? So it's like, I'm seeing Jack Nicholson on one side and the fireman on the other. So, but yeah, it's true, 100% true. And I think a lot of people get caught up in that. And, you know, I used to, when I was a personal trainer and I started in the health industry because it changed my life. I wasn't in it for, you know, like I want to look in the mirror and look at muscles. It was all about how I went from, you know, being, you know, anxiety, depressed, like, you know, coping with like substances that were harmful to me, and changed my life. So then when I first started doing it, I was always like, oh, well, let me get this person and help them. And then all of a sudden I'm like, now I'm getting stressed out over money because I don't have any, I can't pay my bills, but I'm doing the good work that I finally started realizing I have to charge more for it. And I finally realized that the more I charged, the more I served and the better I could help. So I think you covered all those points in that quick little belief. So that's 2 false beliefs, right? So what's the third big false belief out there?
Yeah, and this one I'm going to get like kicked in the face for, and I don't care. I have to make sure that I put this out there, and this is very difficult to talk about. So we may have to come back to this. It's maybe for a later time, but there's a belief amongst conscious, purpose-driven entrepreneurs of I need more coaching. Like, this is a belief of the learning never stops. Now, holy crap, I've studied with Tony Robbins. He's amazing. That is a mantra that when you go to UPW, Tony will say on the loudspeaker, and while the flames are going, you're terrified to walk on them, the learning never stops, right? The learning never stops. I need to get more coaching, more certifications. I need to buy that info product. I need to buy that program. I got to keep doing, I got to keep going more and more and more and more. One of the biggest causes of suffering is what's underneath that belief, which is I am not enough. Whoa. So in my program, we tackle that. And I don't typically coach people. I actually do a lot more coaching in my marketing than with the people who work with me directly, because our approach is to pare everything down and just kind of hold up a mirror to someone for a whole year and say, okay, let's unpack what you really are working with, right? What have you already learned that you haven't applied yet? And that's the reason why you're not making that next level of income that you're dreaming about, or that's the reason why you're not able to have the health or the relationships that you're looking for. You are enough. What if you are enough? Tony, on the flip side, will also say, like, it's about being resourceful, right? Versus acquiring more resources. And I am so guilty of this. Like, I am not a guru. I am not somebody who knows everything about all the stuff that I'm teaching. I'm just talking about my walk. And as someone who has, for the last 9 years, been in high-end coaching programs and buying on more, and I'm a hyperactive buyer. Like, I love it. I love it, buying stuff. And I have a personal growth and development graveyard. I have like a business coaching shelf full of tons and tons of unimplemented information that if I just keep taking it in, I just keep buying it and taking it and forgetting all of the wealth that I have acquired. It's times like these, actually, where we're forced to pare things back, forced to reevaluate, right? Forced to pare things down, that we recognize how much wealth we already have. And as entrepreneurs, our brilliance is in becoming resourceful and optimizing what we already have acquired. So this can come out as, being a joiner, jumping from program to program to program and implementing nothing, right? I remember, I'm guilty of this. I used to join programs not so that I could get clients or do the work. It was more to buy friends. And this is me, like, kicking myself in the face on behalf of your listeners. I love you. I'm willing to do it, right? But be kind to yourself. If you keep going to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. One of my clients, Joe, he says, yeah, I'm guilty of this. I'm always about what's next. That is so entrepreneur. Like, that is so, that's so us. But at the same time, if you don't ground and implement what was before, right? The last what's next that you had, the last idea, if you don't fully implement it, you're just cluttering yourself, your business, and your energy. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. So I think, I'll admit it 100%. I do the same thing. I've actually noticed that I do this now finally. So I was able to sort of put a block in it. Like, do I really need that? No, I don't need that. Okay. So now, as you and I know, we probably both, sometimes I buy things just so I can see the way the person is selling to me. But I'm trying to move away from that. So I think that's a great message, because I think so many of us do get caught in that hole. And of course, some people would want you to continue, keep buying things. I've got something else to sell you. But the ones that are really there to serve you are people like yourself who are telling you, don't. And I would do this as a trainer. Now it makes me realize I told my people, my goal with you is after X amount of months that you don't come see me at all. I've taught you what you need to know. Now go make yourself healthy. And then as you get better, and if something comes up, come back and see me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think that's very important. But it's funny that I wouldn't recognize that in myself. So So it's a good time for people, as you mentioned, it's a good time now as we're recording this and you see this, a lot of people are organizing, getting rid of things, simplifying, because you're sort of forced to,
Yeah.
so it's a good time to really start removing things so you can grow, which is, it's a funny way of thinking about it. Like you just pointed it out, like remove some of this knowledge that's cluttering you up and not getting you anywhere, and simplify down to the important things, and let that help you grow, and let that help you serve others as well.
Oh, yeah. And that also is why we are seeing that now that we're all on quarantine, why is everybody nice? Like, why is nice things happening in the community? Like, why are people being helpful?
I know, isn't that interesting?
Who would have thought? Who would have thought after being released from the techno fog, right? And being released from all of this overexposure, and on to the next thing, on to the next thing, coming back, people are actually good and open to connecting, and we all have resources that we can pool, right? Rather than, oh, I'm gonna stay in my house and do my thing and drive in my car to my job for my kids and my life and go and do only my thing. Like, there's, at our essence, when there's an ancient Greek word for this, and it's called katabasis. Katabasis is the breakdown before the breakthrough. And when after katabasis is kenosis, emptiness. And that's what we're looking for. Like, when we come to emptiness, we find who we really are. And that's why we're seeing right now, in this time of emptiness or boredom, we could say, right? Why is there so much more like community activity and positivity and innovation, creativity coming out? Because that was there the whole time. You don't need anything else new. Sometimes we've got to break down and empty in order to find what we're really made of.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, we got to start wrapping up. So before we do, I wanted to sort of touch on your podcast. So if you would just share a little bit about your podcast, and so tell people about it so they can go check it out, and what is it actually about?
Yeah. So the Journeypreneur podcast, you can find it where all the podcasts are. If you're over on iTunes there, or on Stitcher, wherever you are. And that is specifically where I park inspiration, holistic stress management techniques, tools, and stories to support you on staying on your journey as a conscious entrepreneur. I found that the biggest thing that breaks my heart is that people start the journey and then they kind of peter out, they tank out, they abandon ship. And so it's me parking my best tools and strategies, as well as all of my incredible guests who come to share theirs as well. Mm-hmm.
So cool. And that's the Journeypreneur podcast.
That's right.
So definitely, I'm going to definitely have to check that out. And I know I am supposed to be booking a spot to be on that as well. So I'm looking forward to that. But I appreciate you being on. And I definitely want to, before we wrap up, one, I want to ask you, do you have anything that I haven't covered that you'd like to discuss? Anything new coming up in your world, in the world of, coaching, on online events, anything you're doing that you want to share? And I just want to give you that chance before I dive into my takeaways.
Sure. So right now, in the Entrepreneur Master Manifestors Facebook group, we are reading one chapter a day. Well, I am reading, and I'm reading it on live stream, and we're all following along, of Launch by Jeff Walker. This is the book that, I had my first $5,000 day and have been making money online with ever since. So I know a lot of our community doesn't exactly know how to make money online without using ads, right? Or without spending a ton of money. It's a $12 book, or you can, for free, hop in on the Facebook group and read along with us. It'll only be there up and free for everybody while I'm reading it. Once I'm done, I will charge, right? Because that's about honoring the energy that I put out for everybody. Or otherwise, you could just get the book and do what it says. But if you buy the thing that I'm selling, you also get what I tell you, how I maximize my own launches. I've done dozens of launches over the last 6 years. So Yeah.
That's great. Well, I definitely tell everybody to go check that out because I've actually got the book and read it, but it's amazing when you have the book and then you have somebody who's gone through the experience of utilizing that knowledge, what you can learn from it. That's great. I appreciate you mentioning that. So I might poke my head in there too as well
Come on
here
in.
over the
What
next
a
few
time.
days because it's definitely a great book. Now,
Yeah.
also before we go, I know you did say that you had something you wanted to give everybody. We mentioned it in the beginning. Um, says you said you had a quiz that shows your money blocks in business and how to fix them. So where can they go get that quiz? And then there's also a little something extra special that you get as a bonus.
Yeah. So if you come on over to my website, and it's just my name, victoriawhitfield.com/quiz, you'll be able to take the abundance business assessment, which is the quiz there. And as a thank you for learning about your abundance blocks and what you need to do about them right now, I'm going to gift you my Money Manifesting Secrets Black Book. It's over 130 pages, like of my best mindset shifts. If you find that you're the one that's getting in the way of your business moving forward, this is for you. It's free PDF download. It's 33 of the best teachings that I've given. I've been teaching online every single week for 9 years, and we went back through all 9 years of that content and pulled 33 best specifically for money manifesting and put it in that black book. Check it out.
Awesome. So that's at victoriawhitfield.com/quiz.
Yeah.
I'll put the link down below too. And I'll also put links to, you shared with me your Facebook page, your Facebook group, and then I'll put a link to your podcast as well. So thank you again for coming on. Real quick, before we let you go, I'm just going to share some of the takeaways that I got. There were too many to name, but I did get 3 down here. One, which was simple for all of us, everybody listening right now, get outside. If you're feeling overwhelmed, fearful, whatever's going on with all this change going on right now, or any, daily life, get outside. So that's a great tip. Second was, actually looks like I have 2 here, but one is to perform an energy audit, which I think is I will tell everybody listening and watching that this is something that definitely works because I tried this. One of our mutual friends, Carla White, actually told me at some point in an event, said, you know what, take all the news off of your phone, links in Facebook, websites, whatever you're looking at. Like I have an iPhone, it comes with the Apple News app. I had to remove that. But I did that and it was amazing, just the shift. And I've noticed over the past week or so, I've been paying a little more attention to the news because of everything we're going through with the coronavirus. And I can tell my energy has been totally different. So that I actually woke up with that message this morning, quit going into that world again. So then you just came and reiterated that for me and for the listeners. So definitely do that. Get outside, perform an energy audit, remove all the negative things from your life. And then 3, just at the very end, you were talking about emptying ourselves to find ourselves. So I thought that was really, really cool. And now is the time to do it, that we have all this time, social distancing and being alone, to take some time and focus on yourself and empty yourself. So I love it. All 3 of those were great. I appreciate you being on here, Victoria. And take care of yourself. And thank you for sharing with our audience. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Got it.